everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to
The Drunken Library.
And today we are filming a video we have been meaning to film for several months.
Yep.
And that we did film a couple weeks ago.
Yes, we did.
And then couldn't post because we didn't turn on the microphone.
And we were not audible even a little.
But today we are filming an update for this year's Book Riot Read Harder Challenge because we decided to participate in it this year after Megan and Sue talked about it all last year and then mentioned the prompts for this year, and we were like, we'll do that thing with you guys.
Although we were just talking about earlier how like last year's prompts were so much cooler.
Yeah, although this year's are pretty good, but like
They're
some
good.
of, like I personally have a harder time with the ones from this year than I would have last year, which I guess is kind of the point, but like
yeah.
You know, it's fine. So anyway, the Book Riot Read Harder Challenge, we can link the website in the description, so you can see, like, the list of what the prompts are. But the idea is you get 24 prompts, so, like, 2 per month, if you divide it up like a normal person would, which we did not. And it's just, like, each one is, like, kind of a general theme or, like, genre or
something.
Some sort of qualifier, and then you have to find a book that fits, and then you're supposed to hit all 24 before the end of the year. So we're going to read you guys what the prompts are. Some of them, neither of us has read anything for it yet, but we'll still tell you what the prompt is.
Others,
like,
one of us have, and the other hasn't.
And some, like, we've started.
Others we finished.
So we're just going to go through kind of where we're at with the whole thing.
Yep.
So that'll be funerific.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So the first prompt is read a book about sports. I have not done anything for this yet.
I started to read it on Kindle, but it wasn't much better, so I figured listening to it was like an easier way to get through it. But I listened to the Odes of Pindar, by Pindar. He's an ancient Roman poet, and he wrote poems about champions from, like, the original Olympic Games and various other sporting events of that time period. But he was, like, a poet for hire. So people would hire him to be like, talk about how fucking great I am.
Yeah.
And,
make sure you include all my muscles.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just, like, I love, like, the ancient Greco-Roman history, mythology. I love ancient Roman poets. I have one of them tattooed on my arm. Like, it's kind of my jam, and I was really excited about this, and then I, like, got through it, and I was like, this was not great.
I started it.
I'm real bummed about it.
Yeah, I started it, and I was just like, is this how this is supposed to go?
And I was just like, yup.
And I was like, cool.
It's not great.
Awesome.
But, alright, the next prompt is to read a debut novel. I haven't read this one. I mean, I guess I've technically probably read something this year that's a debut novel, but nothing that I counted for this challenge, so.
I have a funny story about this one.
Oh, good.
So, I was looking into the Patternist series by Octavia Butler.
This is my favorite. It's my favorite.
And I have a bind-up of the series, but there's a bonus book that doesn't actually count towards it officially, but it's still actually part of the series. Because she wrote a book called Survivor, which is part of the series, but she disowned it, and so it was only published for 3 years. And I happened to get a copy of it at Half Price Books one time. I was there with my brother and my sister-in-law. And my brother's like, hey, this is her, like, disowned book. And I was like, okay, it's mine now. It was like $4, whatever.
Yeah.
Apparently it's really hard to find, because they only published it for the 3 years. And so then I was just kind of in a mood, and I was like, oh yeah, this is her debut novel. I'm going to read it. Because, like, we were talking about, like, reading it in different orders.
Yeah, so Amber was going to read it in publication order, and I was going to read it in the recommended chronological order, because those two orders are very different.
Yes. and so, like, I knew that, and, like, by looking at the stuff, like, I knew that her debut novel was in that series. And then somehow or other, in my brain, my fun, twisted maze of a brain, it was like, oh, right, Survivor is her debut novel.
And I think it's A, because it's the one you'd heard the most about due to it being the disowned one and, like, you looking it up, and B, because it's the one that's not in the bind-up.
Right. Well, and actually, I think the logic behind my brain was that she didn't like it as much because it was, like, her first novel, and so she didn't like the way it turned out.
Right.
And then all the other
I
ones
think
got
it was
better.
some combination of those factors, and that your
Yeah.
brain was just like, this is the first one.
Right.
And it's not.
So I read it.
It's
and I was
like in the dead middle
Yeah.
of the series.
It's it up again.
I know the bind-up, the ones that she still counted,
Mm-hmm.
are in the bind-up in chronological order.
Yes. Because then I was like, oh shit. Because I read Survivor, and I was like, oh cool, I counted towards my Reads Harder challenge. And as I was like 3/4 of the way through it, I was texting my cousin, and she was like, oh, like, what year did it come out? When did it come out in comparison to Kindred? And I was
And it
like,
was the
oh,
same year.
the same year? What? And so then I looked it up some more, and I was like, son of a bitch, it's not the first
And then, like, we
novel.
were in the middle of another conversation, and she texted me about this, and I was just like, well, that'll happen. So that was going to be a really interesting video where we compared, like, the books and, like, what reading them in different orders got us. But, like,
Yeah.
due to, like, the way that my personal compulsions work, can't read it in publication order.
Well, it doesn't even matter, because I didn't even read it in chronological order.
Right.
Because
so, like,
Survivor
it's all,
comes right in
it's
the
all
fucking middle.
fucking fucked now.
So we're
Thanks,
just both-
Amber.
Yeah, so we're just going to read them and then tell you
And then we'll
about
just
it.
talk about the
Yeah,
series
that's
in
fine.
some kind of way.
It's totally fine.
But it was going to be fun because it was going to be like, well, I read it this way,
Yeah.
and I read it this way, and here's how it was the same and how it was different. But it's fucked now. So you're welcome for knowing what you're missing out on.
Yeah. But then, so then I was like, okay, well, I know that her first novel's in this bind-up. I'll just read that one first, and then it'll be part of the thing, and I'll just read it, whatever. But it's the last one. I was like, I can't start at the end of my bind-up. That's
Which
so
is what you would have done if you'd have done it the way you were going to do it.
I know, but then but then it's like I already messed it up, and it was just so weird, and I was like,
Amber just fucked it all up.
I just fucked
is
it all
really
up.
the moral of this story.
I was like, here it is, and now I'm going to take it,
and then I'm just going to, like, fuck it up. Just, like, right directly up.
Yeah. Not sideways.
No.
Not down.
No.
Up.
She's fucked it right up.
So, so I'm reading Pattern Master by Octavia Butler for my debut novel.
But not yet.
Not yet, because I have to read all of the other 3 novels in the series, aside from the other one I already read.
That's not if first or last.
Yeah,
so,
it's just there.
there you go.
Yep.
Next prompt.
Next prompt. A book about books. I'm using The Neverending Story.
Yeah, you already read it. I'm in the middle of that one. I'm also in the middle of the one that I'm using for this prompt because I'm using Neverending Story elsewhere in this. Granted, I have a couple that I'm using for more than one prompt.
I have a
but,
couple
like,
that I'm
this
using for
one, I
multiple.
just decided that for Book About Books, I wanted to use A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, and I'm in the middle of that right now. I'm also in the middle of The Neverending Story right now. You guys will be getting a video about that one eventually when I finish it and we watch the movies.
Mm-hmm. Possibly with a friend.
We're, like, finally getting back on track of actually posting videos.
Yeah,
so,
we are.
like, bear with us for a little while.
Yeah. Don't lose faith. Don't lose faith in us.
We'll get there.
Keep loving us. We'll keep
Give us,
loving
like,
you.
positive reinforcement on Twitter. Social media
Yes.
links are down below. Tell us, you guys, you can do it. We believe in you. And then
Yeah.
maybe we'll actually do it.
Yeah. Well, and it's like when we feel like we have to do it for you guys, or like if people are commenting on stuff more often, then we're just like, oh, we have to post more
We
videos.
don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
If it's just us, it's like, we'll do it next
Yeah.
year.
Because, like, we're the worst at YouTube.
The worst in YouTube. So yeah, that's Book About Books, Discovery Witches,
Yes,
You're a
it is.
Never-Ending Story.
Yep.
Good times, great oldies.
Yeah, they are.
Next book is read a book that is set in Central or South America by a Central or South American author. I haven't done anything for this yet, though I plan on reading.
Love in the Time of Cholera. I started listening to the audiobook for it. I'm almost 4 hours into it.
I will likely change my mind. Not because I think it won't be a good book, because I know the language is beautiful, and I know that it's probably very good. It's gotten all kinds of good reviews all over the history of ever, but I'm just, like, not in the right place right now.
Yeah. And you've got to be in the right mindset
And
for
it's
it.
like, I've got to finish them before the end of the year, so it's like, do I have the patience right now, and I can tell you, I do not.
No, I started listening to it. It's I can't even say like I'm digging it. Like it's starting to get interesting now.
But it's just like
It's
not doing it for you.
it's not really doing a lot for me. It's starting to get interesting. I am interested.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really confused about the first 2 entire chapters, but okay, whatever.
Sure. That'll happen.
Yeah, and I'm just like, all right, fine, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah. So the next one is read a book by an immigrant or with a central immigration narrative.
I haven't done anything with this yet. I have plans, but haven't done anything with it yet.
I switched gears from what I was originally doing, and it's a little obscure, but apparently, Kazuo Ishiguro is an immigrant. He was born in Japan and immigrated to Britain when he was 5 years old. So, not like a huge cultural shift, but like, or
It's
at least
still
not
there.
when like you're an adult or whatever, where it make more of an impact. But it still happens.
Still there. It counts.
And, yeah.
Count it.
And so I listened to the audiobook for Nocturnes, 5 stories on music and nightfall, something like that. And it was good. It was really good. I liked it. I dug it. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was good.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah.
Next prompt on here is to read an all-ages comic. I read Lumberjanes Volume 1, which I believe is by Noelle Stevenson. And I don't remember the artist off the top of my head. I borrowed it from the library, so I don't have it to, like, read off of. But I believe the actual author is Noelle Stevenson. I loved Lumberjanes. It's got really good representation. There's a trans girl. There's, like, just other LGBT stuff. There's, like, lesbians. It's basically Buffy meets the Babysitter's Club. And I was about it. I plan on reading the rest of the series. I have a lot of them. Like, I bought a Humble Bundle that came with a bunch of them in it, so I have them digitally. I just haven't read them yet. It's really good. I like it.
I haven't read anything for this yet. And there's a couple things up in the air, so I'll just let you know in the future.
If I can ever talk him into it, I should get my husband on the channel and get him to talk about comics for people who are into, like, different kind of stuff. Or just in general, you should talk to him. He could probably recommend some stuff for you. Because his philosophy is that people who say they don't like comics haven't found the right comics yet. Mm-hmm. Because they have them spanning every fucking genre, every fucking age group, and he is pretty well versed. And honestly, I didn't read nearly as many as I do now until after we were together, and he was like, no, you'll like this, and this, and this, and this. And he started just, like, kind of recommending stuff, and then I started kind of going more out on a limb on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And, he gets real camera wonky, though, so he might not ever do it. But I could probably get him to at least write a list.
Yeah, that could be a thing.
But I'll try and get him on the channel. Plus,
guys,
then you guys could actually meet him. He's real, I promise.
If you guys want us to get Sam's husband on the channel, please comment below.
Yeah, just be like, Adam, do the thing.
Get the fuck on this bitch.
Yeah, either of those. Oh, now it's weird.
Do I say this one?
Yes.
A book published between 1900 and 1950. I went with RTDLJ, Many Moons.
I also went with that one.
Yeah.
So.
And it is a childhood favorite of Sam's.
It is. I love it. It was published in 1943, in case you guys were interested. It's the most adorable, and I have loved it since I was like 7, and you should probably read it.
That's pretty adorable.
That one and Monster at the end of this book are like my 2 favorites from when I was little. Mm-hmm. Plus the first book I ever read, which I have somewhere about in the world. But that's a whole other thing.
Ow.
Cute. Next prompt is to read a travel memoir. I started one for this.
I haven't.
Okay, so I'm reading On the Road by Jack Kerouac. which is published as a fiction, but is actually a memoir.
Oh, cool.
Because in the original, like, unedited scroll, because he wrote the whole book on one continuous, like, scroll of text, he had all of the, basically the characters, all the players' original, like, real names, and then he changed the names later to fictionalize it, but the story itself didn't change at all. So it's just his story of, like, when he was traveling the country as a young beatnik, like you do. And, it's pretty legit. They eat a lot of apple pie, so I'm into it.
Next one is a book you've read before. I went with Kindred by Octavia Butler, because it's my favorite. And I read it this year, in January.
I have read a couple of books I've read before, but the one I'm planning to / have started to read for this is Neverending Story by Michael Ende. Mm-hmm. Next one. Read a book that is within 100 miles of your location.
Did we use the same one for this
Yes,
one?
we did. We both went with The Westingame by Ellen Raskin.
Yes, we did, because it's set in Wisconsin.
Along Lake Michigan, so, like, it's within our realm of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're in Milwaukee.
We have a video about it. We'll link it in the thinger.
Mm-hmm. A book. The next one is read a book more than 5,000 miles from your location. I went with Tarzan of the Apes, because most of it takes place somewhere in Africa.
By good old Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Yes. Yes. Also, actually, never mind.
I went with Hyperion by Dan Simmons. It takes place in another galaxy. So,
Fits.
Also, that book took so much of my energy, and it made me so upset. I wanted to like it so much. There will eventually be a rant about this if Amber ever gets around to reading it, or if we do
That thing. Let's do the thing.
We'll do the thing soon. The next prompt is to read a fantasy book. I went with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I reread most of the Harry Potters so far this year. I still have to read Deathly Hallows. I read the first 6 in, like, the first 3 months of the year, and then just kind of, stopped. Like you do.
For this one, I'm going with The Neverending Story again. This is about a kid who enters into a fictional book.
It's good times.
So, it doesn't actually happen physically.
Well, and there's a lot of, like, elements of magic and stuff that are
So
pretty
many.
generally present in fantasy books, so
It's so good. You should read it.
you totally should.
Next book is read a non-fiction book about technology. I have not started this one, but I have a plan.
I have not started this one. I sort of have a plan, but I had a different plan that changed, so I'm not committing to anything.
Fair enough. Next one.
All right. Next one is read a book about war. I read, this is a super fictional war, by the way. I read Armada by Ernest Cline. It's about a war between humans and aliens. Ernest Cline also wrote Ready Player One, which is one of my favorite sci-fi books because it also makes a lot of, like, 80s pop culture references. This one is kind of similar, but it's, like, set present day.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. It's good times. The audiobook for that one. It was good.
For this, I'm using a political war, and I'm going with The Long Walk to Freedom, the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. I listened to the audiobook for it. It was like 27 hours. It was long.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, and like some of the details escaped, but it was really fascinating, and it was really good, and it was good to learn more about something that I'd heard a little bit about. Next one is a YA or middle grade novel by an author who identifies as LGBTQ+.
We both went with Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sainz.
I never remember his name, except I sort of remember that it's Benjamin.
I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong. But that's his name. It's a really good book.
It's so good.
Also, Lin-Manuel Miranda narrates the audiobook, and he's the best,
good.
and I love him. All right, next one is to read a book that has been frequently banned or challenged in your country. Well, I've read a lot of those. I wanted to read one I hadn't read before for this. Mm-hmm. So I went with Peyton Place by Grace Metalius, I think is how you pronounce her last name. It was very popular when it came out in, I believe, the 1960s or late 50s. It was a pretty big deal. It's about, like, dark secrets in life in a small town. There's murder. There's sex. It's pretty scandalous.
Wow.
It gave me, like, slightly darker Valley of the Dolls vibes, and Valley of the Dolls is, like, kind of dark anyway, so, like, that's saying a lot.
Right on. Mm-hmm. I went with Animal Farm. The next one is read a classic by an author of color. We go
went with the same one.
We both went with The Color Purple
by Alice Walker. Good book. Great book. Read it.
So good.
We'll do a video about it eventually.
Yeah. Just like, shit, it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It hits like 5 or 6 of these prompts, which is kind of amazing. Alright, the next one is to read a superhero comic with a female lead. And I read the new Ms. Marvel, Volume 1. I don't remember the author, but the volume is called No Normal. It's about, like, a Muslim girl in New York City who's in high school who just wants to be Ms. Marvel, and she gets given Ms. Marvel's powers, and she has to, like, save the world, and she's the best, and I love her.
I don't have anything for this yet, but I started a book that Sam lent me called Thor, and it's
Goddess of Thunder.
Yeah, it's like a retelling of Thor with a woman, and that seems pretty cool. So that's where I'm at with that one. The next one is a character of color goes on a spiritual journey.
I think we both went with the same one on this one too. No,
because I went with the narrative of Frederick Douglass.
Oh, okay.
Because he figures some shit out over the course of his life. It's a nonfiction, but he still figured some shit out, including spiritual things and psychological things and intellectual things, and yeah.
Okay, I do use it for 3 then, because this is the second one I use The Color Purple for. It hits so many prompts, you guys.
It's so many.
You should probably just read it.
You should really just read it.
The next one on here is to read an LGBTQ romance.
Did we go with the same one for this?
Yes, we both went with Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe. We just talked about it. We'll talk about it more.
So good.
It's so good.
And it's adorable.
It's real cute.
So cute. The next book is read a book from a micro press.
Neither of us has started it yet. We both have the same one.
Yep.
Micro press books are not the easiest to locate. So we'll talk about it more once we've read it.
Yeah.
Next one on here is to read a collection of stories by a woman.
What do you got for that one?
I haven't read it yet.
I
think I'm changing it, so.
Okay. I went with A Few of the Girls by Maeve Binchy. Because Maeve Binchy. And she is a short story collection. So.
I have like 3 or 4 different female short story collections that I've been meaning to get to, and I'm just trying to figure out which one I feel like reading right now, so that's why I'm not making any commitments.
Legit. Next one is read a collection of poetry in translation that is not about love.
Yeah.
Or about a subject other than love.
On a theme other than love, I think is how they word it. But the idea is that it can't be about love or boning. And so for this one, I went with the Odes of Pindar. Again, it was a collection of poetry in translation from the ancient Roman. Or was it originally Greek? One of the two. I have the ebook I have of it has all 3, English, Latin, and Greek in it.
Okay.
But the idea is it's a collection of poetry in translation in a classic language about sports ball. So
Ancient sports ball.
/ discus / weightlifting / chariot races / shit I don't really care about.
And the last one read a book where all point of view characters are people of color. And I think we went with the same one for this one, which was
Color Purple by Alice Walker.
Yep.
So, it's good. Read it. Do all the reading. We will link anything that we've got a video on, or any particular stuff that needs to be linked
down
below the Book Riot Read Harder website. Any of that stuff. We've got like a video about the Weston game.
Mm-hmm.
Some other kind of shit.
Yep.
Our battery's about to die, so
yes,
we
it
should
is.
make this quick. But let us know if you've participated in this, what you've read, what you plan on reading, what you would have read if you did participate in this. If you want to participate next year, we'll make a video about that once we see what the prompts are.
Yep. Thoughts on the books that we've mentioned.
Yeah, just any kind of
suggestions for stuff we don't have.
Recipes, food recommendations,
favorite booze,
knock jokes.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel like talking about.
Yeah.
Give us a shout down in the comments.
Do it.
Have a great day.
Bye.